Hi guys, welcome back to Antonio Valente Flowers. This evening I'm doing a little bit of direct sowing in this bed right behind me. So I thought I might show you how it is that I do some direct sowing. There are two different techniques that I employ when I'm direct sowing. But first, what is direct sowing? For some of you who may not know, direct sowing is just simply the technique whereby I take the seeds that I want to sow and I sow them directly into the garden where I'm expecting them to germinate and grow, rather than, taking those seeds, starting them indoors, and then having to harden them off and then plant them outside. So what are the advantages of this? Well, it saves me a lot of space under my grow lights. I don't have a big fancy greenhouse to start my seeds, so I start everything under grow lights. So if I can take these seeds and sow them directly into my garden, I'm saving myself some space for other plants that really do need to be started indoors first and then planted outside. The other thing that direct sowing does is that it cuts down on a lot of the work for me. I can sow the seeds straight into the garden, have them grow right there. I don't have to worry about hardening them off, so it makes my job a little bit easier. So what type of seeds can you sow into your garden in the spring? There are two sort of different types of plants. There are seeds that like to be sown during the cool of early spring, and then there are seeds that like to be sown a little bit later once the soil's really had a chance to warm up. Those type of seeds like to be planted a little bit later. So some examples of the former are things like larkspur, poppies, blue parum. Those are seeds that like to be planted as soon as you can work the soil early in the spring. A little bit of light frost does nothing to them. In fact, it benefits them. Then there are those seeds that prefer to be sown once the soil has had a chance to warm up. And here in Zone 5, that's usually the end of May or even the beginning of June. And those are things like cosmos, zinnia, amaranthus. So how do you know when to plant those types of seeds in case you're new? Well, I have a packet of seeds here. It just so happens to be from the Antonio Valente Flowers line of seeds. But on the back of each packet is information. It'll say, direct sow outdoors once the soil has had a chance to warm up. So here in Zone 5, that would be, like I said, late May, early June. Or if it says sow directly into the garden as soon as you can work the soil, here in Zone 5, that's typically the first week of April. So that means that this is the type of seed that prefers a little bit of frost to get going. The last thing I'll mention before we get to the actual technique of direct sowing, if the back of the seed packet says that direct sowing is recommended, it's actually to that particular plant's advantage to be direct sown. Most likely it has a taproot and it doesn't like to be transplanted, or it doesn't transplant well. Those are also the type of seeds that you're gonna wanna direct sow straight into your garden rather than starting them indoors and then planting them outside. So this first type of sowing is a broadcast type sowing, and this is appropriate for anything that is maybe has a really tiny seed like poppies, and it also likes to be surface sown. So just sown directly straight onto the surface of the soil rather than burying it. And so for this technique, what I've done is I've just taken a container, I've filled it with some horticultural grade sand. That's important, you don't want to use construction sand. And then I've emptied the seed packet in here and I've given it a really good shake, a really good stir. And the advantage that this sand will give me is, well, when you're dealing with seeds like poppies, which are really small, this will help to more evenly distribute the broadcasting of these seeds over this bed. The other thing it'll do is it will tell me where I've already sown those seeds so I don't double sow seeds. So, all right, so I've taken those seeds, I've mixed them up in here, and then I'm going to just take them, and over this 4-foot bed, I'm just going to scatter the sand and the seeds. And this will help me to evenly broadcast the seeds throughout this bed, and I can already see I've already done this section here. I'm not going to sort of, like I said, sow over this section again. I'm going to now walk over to the other side and I'll do that side of the bed. So for this next technique of direct sowing, what I've done is I've gone through and I've just taken a string line or a plumb line straight down the center of the 4-foot wide bed, and that's just gonna help me keep my lines straight down the bed. And what we're going to do is we're going to sow 5 lines of seeds down this 4-foot bed. And so for that, I'm going to be taking just a stake, and this plumb line here is just going to help me distinguish where it is that I'm going to have my first line. And then from there, I'm just sort of eyeballing 2 more lines down the bed. A little bit off here, so let's just redo that one. You want them sort of spaced out evenly. It actually helps if you go down and you do the entire bed first with the middle row, then the second, then the third, and then twice more on the other side there for a total of 5 rows down the 4-foot bed. Okay, but just for the sake of demoing, we're just going to sort of keep it to this point here. And then I'm going to take my seeds and it helps if you don't do this on a windy day where your seeds will go flying. Just going to take the seeds, going to empty them in the palm of my hand. And I'm going to take the seeds and I'm just going to drop 1 seed every 3-ish inches down the bed. And then I'm just going to take the soil and I'm just going to lightly brush it back over the seeds. And this is appropriate for any seed that prefers darkness for germination. So things like larkspur, for example, or nigella, those are things that we can sort of bury below the surface of the soil because they actually prefer darkness for germination. So what I'll do is I'll go down this bed, continue sowing. Once it's done, I'll have 5 rows of seedlings, which are sort of perfect because I have 4 lines of drip tape that are ready to run down this bed in between the 4 rows of seedlings. All right, so that's it for me on direct sowing. I gotta finish doing this bed. If you liked this video, please feel free to subscribe and like it and comment down below if you have any questions. Thanks.